everybody. Welcome back to the New Agenda. My name is Candace New, and I am your host. I'm so excited to spend some more time with you guys today and introduce you to some fabulous people. Before we get into that, I hope that you guys are excited. I don't know if that's the right word about the winter that is coming. So I am not a fan of winter, but I will say that this season right here that we're heading into with all the holidays and all of the like warm apple cider and all the really good food and the getting fat, that's my favorite. I do love all of those things, and I'm super excited because I'm going to get to go visit my dad and my grandma and everybody out in Nebraska, so I'll probably be tuning in and sending you guys some clips from whatever crazy adventure we're going to be going on out there. So yeah, tune in, stay hanging out with us. Today, I've got a couple of really phenomenal guests for you. We're going to talk about some big things and talk about some journeys that hopefully you guys out there can be inspired by. I don't want to ramble too long, so I'm going to bring out a first guest. I will tell you, I'm a little nervous today, honestly, because these guys are kind of like way cooler than I am. And this first guy actually is kind of judgy, kind of like me. Maybe he wouldn't think so. Y'all might recognize him. I certainly know who he is. His reputation goes before him. I don't know if that's good or bad or ugly. But Mr. Devin O'Leary, hello, sir. Come on out. Woo! I'm so excited to have you on my show today. How are you?
I'm doing great.
I'm so excited to have you. Come hang out with me. I will tell you guys, I officially met Devin when... well, maybe I'm wrong, but the first time I think I met Devin was when I was here, right?
Yeah,
that's the first time we met.
In the studio, as far as I remember, yeah.
Yeah, when Katharsis got to take over the Ed channel, and Devin wrote this really, really beautiful article about the work that we were doing here and the work that's been going on here. But in case you're unaware, he's a. Right now, you're not a critic.
No, I'm more of a journalist now for the paper.
Does have 25 years of being a film critic. Is that right?
I spent 28 years at the Alibi, the weekly Alibi, doing primarily film and television criticism. Writing about film and television, interviewing actors, directors, writers, going to film premieres, that kind of stuff.
That's fabulous.
And that started back in the 90s, really, when the sort of independent film industry was really taking off there in Hollywood, and so I was there for a lot of that really developmental stuff. That was a load of fun. Since the Alibi shut down, I've been working for the paper, doing more cultural and artistic journalism for the paper, and that's how I ran into you guys.
Yeah.
And wanted to talk about the work you were doing here, which is great.
Well, that's awesome. I definitely appreciated it, and it was really well written. And so you've been doing all kinds of things lately, and I'll get into that. But I kind of want to know how you got involved. Like, okay, I know what makes me get up and go, I want to be super judgy today. But like, what inspired you, and how did you become this film critic? How did you get involved in that? Where did it begin?
It wasn't anything I really planned. When the Alibi started in Albuquerque here many years ago, during the real dawn of the weekly newspapers, it was a big deal in the 90s.
Yeah.
Weekly newspapers were kind of taking over the country, and some folks came here to town to start up a weekly paper. And I was just getting out of college at the time, and so some friends and I sort of volunteered to start working with them. And at the time, I had just gotten out of college at UNM, where I was studying film and creative writing. And my intention as an adult was always to be a writer in film, a screenwriter.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, I'm getting out of school, and I'm going to try and be a screenwriter, but I need a day job. And I thought, well, writing for a paper would be a pretty good opportunity. And the weird thing is, I spent years with an agent in Hollywood, pitching stories, going to studios, talking to producers and directors, and I got kind of frustrated by it for doing that for a decade or so. But I kept working for the paper the whole time, and the longer I worked for the paper and for the Alibi, and other people worked for them, we sort of drifted into the parts of the paper that sort of fit us. Originally, we were just doing anything to fill the space.
Absolutely.
But as the paper got bigger and bigger and more popular, we had to fill a lot of space. And so it made sense that I drifted into doing film. and that's what I wound up doing. I always thought that was sort of a side gig that I was just gonna do that for a few years, but I wound up doing it for 28 years for the Alibi.
Yeah.
So, and it worked out nicely because it actually gave me I think a better appreciation and understanding of film. You spend a couple decades studying a subject like that, which is what you have to do when you're writing about it. You learn a lot. So I was actually kind of grateful in the end that was my path, and I've sort of come back to filmmaking since then. But I spent a lot of years just talking about it.
So recently, I know that I've got to hang out with you a little bit.
Yes.
On the set of a film that you wrote, Coyote Cage. Now, I know we're not telling all the things, okay? We know. And you guys heard about it a little bit last week because we had our lovely intern Ophelia on, who talked a little bit about her experience working on this feature film as well. So we're not talking about it, but we're talking about it.
Yeah.
But I would love to hear a little bit about your experience writing scripts and how you came to maybe to this one that we're working on now, or whatever you feel comfortable sharing.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I always wanted to be a screenwriter, and even when I first started doing journalism, I was writing screenplays and got an agent and went out to LA a lot and did it for years, but didn't like the system that was set up. There's a weird institutional way they have of rejecting things for just very strange reasons, and it got too much for me. So I stopped doing it for quite a while. And I started seeing a lot of my friends here in Albuquerque who were starting to do a lot of really ultra low budget independent filmmaking. They were people I knew in college or people I knew just out of college, and the technology with video was starting to become a lot easier, and so more and more people were doing that kind of thing. And I thought, well, I got into being a screenwriter because I wanted to make things, and the thing I didn't like about being in Hollywood was none of it got made. I even made money out there, but the stuff I was creating wasn't coming out on any screen, and that's what I create stuff for, is for people to see it and experience it. And so I kind of turned to some of my friends who were working on stuff, and I thought, a friend of mine, years ago, was going to start working on his second film, and he said, I don't have any screenplays. I don't know what to do next. And I thought, wow, man, people know I'm a writer, but nobody ever asked me to write a screenplay. I had acted in a number of films here locally. Like I said, I had a lot of friends who were doing these kind of films, and I thought, well, nobody ever asked me to write a screenplay. And it occurred to me really quickly that no one should be asking me to do anything for them. I should just be doing things. And so I literally sat down and wrote a screenplay. And my friend Billy, who I had that conversation with about screenplays, I just handed him a screenplay and said, there's your screenplay. You said you needed a screenplay. So I wrote one, and he was like, you gotta be kidding me.
That's amazing.
He read it over, and he's like, great, let's start making this movie. And that was the first film that I did with my friend Billy Garbarina. That was Stiffed. And
when was that?
That was 2007?
Okay.
2007 or 8, somewhere around there. And since then, Coyote Cage will be the 5th film that I wrote a screenplay for, and they've all been made and released, all ultra low budget, all here in New Mexico.
That's incredible. I mean, the work that we do when we put together films or screenplays for low budget independent filmmakers is so important because it gives filmmakers something beautiful to create and helps us to really bolster our film economy here instead of just what's coming in from outside that stays for a minute and then goes back out there. And so I think that's super huge, especially with somebody who has had so much experience being able to really analyze film and being able to understand what makes a film really great and what makes a script really great. And so I know that Coyote Cage is really, really beautifully written, and I'm really excited and honored to be a part of it. But it sounds like you've been doing quite a bit more than that. So where are you going now?
I don't know. I mean, I don't worry so much about. Back when I first started writing screenplays and I was out in Hollywood talking to studios, I was thinking about a career. I was thinking about, well, okay, what I got to get the right agent and the right manager, and I have to choose the right studio to make these things, and I have to make this budget of film. I just realized one day that that wasn't what I was in it for. I was in it to create stuff that people got to see. And so that's why I was happy to do the independent stuff here. I don't make really money at it so far, but that's not really my goal. And so I don't think as far in terms of what the career is, like what the ladder is. What I think in terms of is what's going to challenge me and would be interesting to me.
Sure.
I don't want to do the same thing over and over again. I mean, I've done super low budget. We're talking like $5,000 or under films, and I've done a little bit. Coyote Cage is probably the largest budget that I've worked with, because we've had a nice big cast and crew with that one, which has helped out a lot. And that's been really exciting for me, is to be on a set that has a bunch of people working on it and people contributing to it. That gets me very excited. So that's the kind of things I look for. I look for different things to do every time I go out. I don't want to keep repeating something that I've done before. That just kind of bores me creatively. So I'm not really sure. I mean, once Coyote Cage is done, once it's edited and all the post-production is done, and we start looking at doing a premiere and maybe going to some film festivals, I think then I'll start putting my head together with some of the people that we've worked with over the last month or so and think about what comes next. But we're being a little bit smart about it now. We're thinking a little business-wise, because we have a plan in place to get our budget back and to make some money and to get everybody paid properly.
Right.
And so we want to continue along those lines. We want to be more professional. I mean, the way you work, you're always trying to get people educated and learning and on set and in this studio and in films, and you brought a whole bunch of people out to set to work with us, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing I want to be able to continue to do, is to get people into that position. Everybody who does this does it because they want to do this for a living, and they want to be as professional as they can. So I'm always excited to be around people who are really serious about their job and want to learn more and do bigger things.
Yeah.
And that's hopefully that's what comes next. Not anything specific that comes next, but this general idea of, we want to do something that's more challenging and better and different and all that.
So where do you find inspiration for the stories that you tell?
Well, I think a writer is always writing. I mean, I'm always writing in my head, and it's always just little snippets of like a character, an idea, or a place, and I come up with it and I just file it away there. And then weeks later, months later, years later, I come up with another idea and I rifle through there and I go, wait a minute, that piece kind of goes here, that might fit together. With the films, with Coyote Cage, the last film that I did was called Big Mistake, and that was directed by Michael Perez, who directs Coyote Cage.
Right.
And he had come to myself and Billy Garbarina, who had directed the 3 films that I had done before, and he had just gotten out of the Navy as a cameraman and wanted to start making film, and he had seen some of the stuff that we had done, and came to us and said, hey, I just want to pick your guys' brain. I want to start making films. I want to do a short film to get into filmmaking. And we basically told him, don't do a short film. Like, we do these things really quick with very little money. Just do a feature film, and you'll learn more than you'll learn doing anything else.
Yeah.
Even if you screw it up, you'll learn so much.
I agree.
So we convinced him somehow to do a movie, and he's like, well, I need a screenplay. And Billy's like, well, just make Devin do it.
That's great. And you're like, okay, I guess I'm writing a screenplay.
And so for Big Mistake, he had just a couple little ideas of what he wanted to do on screen, really basic stuff. He was like, I want to do a sort of a crime film noir thing, and I want, this tough narration and a couple other little things. And I just took those little ideas and I kind of knew, based on the way he was talking, what he wanted, ultimately what he wanted, what the feeling that he wanted to get across. And I wrote the script from there, and I gave it to him, and he's like, man, that was fantastic. That's just what I wanted. And with Coyote Cage, it was something pretty similar. He was like, I want to do a horror thriller piece. I want to do something about the current migration crisis in the border, and I want to kind of tie all these things together. And I said, well, I think I can come up with that. And I dug around up there and looked at some of the ideas I had, and there was an idea that I had a few years ago for a film that I wanted to make that I couldn't quite do, and I kept avoiding that idea because I was like, well, I kind of already have formed that idea, and it's very different. Another thing that Michael said that he wanted for this is he didn't want any supernatural events to this. He didn't want to make it unnatural. He wanted to make it very realistic and gritty and very real world. and the more I kind of twisted the ideas around in my head, I had a hard time coming up with anything new. But then I pulled out that old script idea and said, I know this is the best idea. I just need to scrape off a couple of things and just build that plot up from the basic structure. And that's how Coyote Cage came out. I took that old script and I redid it, and it came out really good, I think. I think it's one of my favorite pieces. So
I think that's great. So what I did take away from that really though is that you basically, I could come up with an idea, and then I could like make Devin do it, and then you could go write my screenplay, and then we could go make some really fabulous things.
It can be. Writing is a weird, lonely sport. You know, you spend a lot of time just kind of sitting on your own and thinking. But to me, I like being inspired by. I like being inspired by people. Again, you know, the people I know I'm working with help me on that. I know Michael, having worked with him before. I know what he can do, what he likes, what his interests are, and that kind of inspires me quite a bit. So when he says when he throws 2 or 3 little ideas at me, I know what he's getting at. I know what he wants in the end, and so that kind of gives me ideas, and I keep working that over. It's always good as a writer to have an audience in mind. You know, however you're writing, if you're writing a film or a book or whatever, you know somebody's going to pay attention to it at some point, and so you kind of focus on that end result. Like, somebody's going to watch this. You know, are they going to understand it? Are they going to get it? Are they going to get the joke if there's a joke? Are they going to get the scare if there's a scare? So having an audience in mind really helps. And so having people that I know I'm working with, which you have to do in film.
Right.
If you're writing a novel, you're sort of on your own until you get to an editor, maybe. If I'm working in journalism, again, I have an editor who might edit some pieces, but I'm kind of writing it on my own. But with a film, you know you're going to work with a whole bunch of people. You're going to work with actors, you're going to work with the director, cinematographer, all kinds of stuff, and they're all going to contribute something to it. And so they're the first level of the audience you got to get past, and it helps a lot. I think to know who the director is and what they're like and what they do, to know the actors, that helps a lot. To know what they do and what they're interested in and how they can interpret things, and then you kind of follow that in your writing. You know, you're gearing it towards them.
Absolutely.
If you're lucky enough to know who you're going to be working with.
Right. Well, I think that is incredible. Actually, one of my interns and I were working on some scripts this morning, and we'll talk a little bit about that, crazy. But there's somebody else here today who has done some writing, who might be able to join in our conversation quite well. And I don't know why, but I have this inkling of a thought that perhaps y'all have met before. I'm not sure. But I'm super excited to introduce my next guest. Some of y'all might have heard of him. His name is Joel. Hello, darling. How are you?
What's up? Oh, man, thanks for having me.
Welcome,
I just spilled like 2 seconds
I
before.
love that. That's great.
So it might be a little wet.
Is it there?
Thank you for having me. You're awesome.
Oh,
and let me tell you guys, this is one to watch. I was talking to her, what she's done, what she's going to do for the community. Thank you for doing that stuff. That's awesome.
You.
That's
Thank
really
you.
great.
I feel very humbled today to be sitting in the presence of 2 incredibly talented people. If those pillows are bothering you, you're welcome to get rid of them. Sorry. You can put them under there, or you can lean on them or whatever. But Joel, first of all, the first time I got to meet you was it the High Desert Screening panel? We were on a panel together.
Yes.
And that was kind of cool. I felt very weird being on this panel. I was like, okay, I'm on a panel. I don't know why, but here I am. Hi, guys.
That's how I feel every time, you know.
I'm always like, what do you, okay. I could talk, whatever. I talk on TV all the time. I don't know what you want me to say here, though.
Right.
So, Joel, tell me a little bit about your journey. And I know we've got some things to show today as well. And then I'd love to hear a little bit about your process as a writer as well, or as getting into some of that. But first, tell me a little bit about you and your journey as an artist.
I feel like my whole journey has been a bunch of happy accidents and surrounding myself with people that are smarter than me. And that's helped me to get to where I am, you know. And maybe I'll work with this guy one day.
Absolutely, man.
When I came to America from Mexico, he was one of the first people I met. There's this really great theater. If you ever come to Albuquerque, this is Albuquerque people watching probably, but the Guild used to do these midnight horror movies. I'm a huge horror fan. So I'd go there at midnight, and you would host it, right?
Yeah, I spent 15 years.
Really?
I spent 15 years booking and hosting all those midnight movies for
Like
for the
Rocky?
We
Like the
did-
Rocky Horror Picture Show?
I've done Rocky, but I never did Rocky there.
Okay.
I would bring in horror films, like foreign films. I was bringing a lot of Japanese horror films, like really, and then some classic stuff from the 80s.
And
Stuff
the
I
Guild is
probably
so
already
cool.
watched
I love the
most of
Guild.
the time, but I would just go there and just like disconnect. It's midnight. No one knows where I'm at, and I'm just watching this. And so that's how I met him. But
That's great.
as far as film, I started. I used to live with the Otomi Indians in Mexico, in the Nahuatls, and I would do little pictures and videos and stuff of my time there, and then I just started editing just started messing around with cameras and stuff like that. But I think my wife, who's probably my biggest inspiration, I was talking about filming. We were watching a show called Spaced. I don't know if you know what that is. It's a great TV show Edgar Wright did, and I was like, man, if I ever filmed anything, it'd be like this. This is how the style. This is exactly what goes on in my head
I have not seen this.
every single day, right? And so she said, you should write it, and she just kind of got me to do that. And I wrote that, and then I got some friends. I paid them some chicken.
Right? That's right. That's
and
exactly
we
right.
shot a little 4x3, shot it. I showed everyone who helped me out and their friends and family.
And give me like a time era. Where are we sitting in time?
Oh gosh.
I know you guys are only like 20 years old, but
Yes.
No, this is like 2000 and I don't know, 5 or 6.
Yeah, okay,
I don't
okay.
remember. I can't remember. But and so I shot that thing. We put it on DVDs and for the family, and I figured that would be it.
Right.
Right.
That'd be the end of it. And then one day we're at a store and someone comes up to, and I'm hanging out with one of the actors that was in it, and they're like, "Oh man, can I get your autograph?" I'm like, "What do they want your autograph for?" And we asked, and they're like, "Oh, we saw it's called La Church," and I didn't know, but people started copying these DVDs.
Wow.
Before YouTube and viral videos and
right.
stuff. Oh my gosh, now I'm dating myself, right?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And it ended up leading to my first feature film.
That's amazing.
And so, I'm on set like, I don't even know what the heck's going on. I'm like, action? I
Right,
don't know. And it's just, it was just surrounding myself with smarter people than me and learning and happy accidents, just like that stuff and God. And I attribute all that success to him too.
Absolutely.
So, but stuff like that, so.
That's amazing. I know that we have a couple of clips from some of the things that you've done. So I know we've got one that I got to see actually last night. And so I want to show it to everyone because I'm going to make my friend Amanda watch this with me because she likes scary things. And I'm not as much a fan, but for some reason, like lately, I'm like, I'm going to watch scary movies. I'm going to be a grown-up and watch scary things and not stay awake all night crying. Maybe I still will. But this one is called Beautiful Prison.
Yes.
And this is a little trailer. It's kind of an older film.
Yes. This
So
is
it's out.
my second feature film.
Okay. But so for the second feature,
And I
let's
was
go
like,
ahead
you
and
sure
go
you
to
want
that
to play
trailer.
this? This is pretty old. I got newer stuff.
It's so great. No, we're going to go to it. We're
Okay.
going to go to that right now. Then we'll come back.
We can't take care of him our whole lives. We need to put him in a place where he can be managed.
Managed?
Yeah, where he can be looked after and be with other people like him.
He's not like other people. He wasn't always like this, and you know that, Chente. I'm sorry. I'd rather he move into the house with us and put him into some godforsaken institution.
No, that's not an option.
It's worth discussing.
No, he can't move in here and disrupt our lives. When did things start getting weird?
doing later tonight, y'all. So tune in and we can have a conversation about it later.
What's
with Devin.
crazy is, oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say that the movie it came out a long time ago, but within the last 2 years, I have been invited to do more interviews and everything because it's like finding its audience, which is
Right.
kind of
Yeah.
a cool thing about film, is that you can make something go, oh, okay, that didn't hit well, and then it finds its audience
Right.
years later, and now I'm like, things are happening, and it's crazy.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
I will say, like, the makeup and the special effects in this film, I mean, your second feature, holy crap, like, my second, like, whatever weird thing I was doing, like, I was just trying not to get arrested in the foothills, like. But so, what's up, where'd you get the makeup? How'd you get there?
So the makeup is actually Meredith Johns, who did like Quentin's Death Proof. She works with Robert Rodriguez, Machete,
Oh my
all
gosh.
all
Okay.
these people, and so her and her team, we flew them down to Mexico, and they just, we're talking like maybe 14 plus hours of just straight up makeup.
Oh my gosh.
Hundreds of people
Yeah.
in the chair, rotating, getting them all. I mean, if you've seen that shot, we closed down 4 blocks.
Right, I
And
mean,
just hundreds of demons running through the streets. That's a good time.
that's
a
like,
good time
I
in
would
Mexico.
love to just be, like, I know they were doing, like, The Walking Dead or whatever, and I was like, I want to be a zombie in one of these movies. Like, it'd be so fun to just be like, I don't
And
know.
I was cast to be a zombie in The Walking Dead
Yeah?
for this last season.
Yeah.
Because my buddy's been doing it for years.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, you can come on, headshot, everything. And then I got the vid,
Oh,
So I wasn't able to make it.
no.
Bummer.
Sorry. But
Jeez, that COVID, man.
yeah, that's a bummer. Anyway,
All right, well,
Devin.
that was
Yes.
great. So that was a while ago. That was your second feature, so, I'm
Yes.
feeling pretty good about having you on my show, that's for sure. You recently just put up a commercial for Nintendo, is that
Yeah.
right?
yeah, I just I did a commercial for Nintendo during COVID, and I had it all cast, and then like everything shut down.
Yeah.
So SAG, everything. So I was like, well, I'm gonna put me and my son in it,
Uh-huh.
That's great. great.
and then some actors, a couple actors that wanted to still work,
Right.
And so and it was during that
They
time.
were in your quarantine circle.
It was during that
We had a
time
quarantine
where,
circle.
like, yeah, exactly. Like, it was during that time, like, if you shot anything, boy, they were having your,
Oh, yeah.
and I was like, I got to get this done.
See, we kind of cheated. Okay, so
Everyone did. No one talked
Well,
about it, though.
yeah.
I
That's
mean,
the
but
thing.
we actually cheated with permission. We were the only studio that was open during COVID, and
Yeah.
it was because we managed to land a contract with APS to film this teaching artist series.
Yes.
So we filmed 44 episodes of a teaching artist series during COVID, and me and my team would come in, and they'd all be masked, and everyone had to do tests and all that every single day. But so we snuck through the pandemic working. We literally were off for
Yeah.
2 weeks, and then we worked every freaking day. I mean, we had weekends off, but I mean, we worked full time through the whole pandemic, and it was really cool because it was also like when we were like, well, shoot, we could do all kinds of things, and so I wrote a pilot, and we wrote some other things and filmed some things, and had some fun, and it was our little quarantine
Yeah.
circle. It was like, nope, nobody outside of the circle because we can't be getting sick because we got to go back to work on Monday. The rest of the
Yeah.
world's shut down. We can't get shut down.
We shot a feature in Michigan. It actually just premiered at Screenfest.
That's awesome.
Last month, I believe.
Okay.
We won.
Yeah,
We
recent.
won Best VFX and stuff. We shot that during COVID.
Okay.
Called Deer Camp 86. Go check it out.
Yes.
When it comes out. So
When's it gonna come out? Where's it gonna come out?
don't know yet.
Okay.
You do the festival run,
Yeah.
and then whoever decides to
Wait and
pick it
see.
up. So
Yeah.
but the next day, 4-star reviews, good stuff.
That's good.
So.
That's
But we
good.
did that way down low, secret.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So.
Smaller cast?
Yeah. I mean, it was, yeah.
Smaller.
It's interesting.
It sounds like he's like, shh,
Yeah.
shh.
Yeah.
We're not talking about it.
But the Nintendo commercial, and I have a PlayStation commercial and an Xbox commercial coming up this year, or next year.
That's awesome.
So that's already shot. And
So let's go
being
ahead
in
and
that.
play. I know we've got that. There's
Okay.
no logos, but it's a Nintendo.
I cut the logos out.
I know you did. Let's go to that.
Do you miss the good old days when video games were challenging and fun? Then it's time for you to play Sydney Hunter and the Curse of the Mayan. In Sydney Hunter and the Curse of the Mayan, you'll play as Sydney Hunter, an explorer trapped inside a cursed Mayan pyramid with nothing more than his whip and his wit to save himself. Guide him through dangerous enemy-filled levels. Find secret locations and new weapons to help you battle against scorpions, skeletons, piranhas, bats, spiders, zombies, and more. Do you have what it takes to beat all 7 Mayan gods and open up the door to the final boss? Pick up your copy of Sydney Hunter and the Curse of the Mayan today. It will blow you away.
That's amazing.
Nice, yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
So that was your kid.
Yeah, that was
Turned
my
into
kid.
you.
Yeah,
Or you turned
and
into
I don't
him.
like being in front of the camera, but when the vid hits,
Yeah.
you
yeah.
make exceptions, and it was a fun time.
That's awesome.
That's another thing Joel and I had in common that we met over is we're both very into retro gaming.
Yeah.
I collect orphan gaming systems, and you do reviews.
Yeah, I
and-
do a show called Media Glitch as well, which is all
Okay.
video game reviews. And this year I've been hitting all these cons because I actually do I moderate all the Mortal Kombat panels.
Okay.
And it's their 30-year anniversary, so it's been.
Really? Has it been that long?
I know
I,
when
mean,
I.
I don't know, because
Hard to believe.
obviously I'm only
Yeah,
29.
I mean, you
but
were young when it came. You were probably
I was
knee high
not-
to a
we're gonna
duck,
go with-
but
I wasn't even born then. I
yeah,
swear,
I probably not.
Yeah,
so.
right.
But it's been retro gaming, and even because I was at the wrap party for your guys' thing,
Coyote Cage.
Cage, because I know the director, and he's. I saw footage. It looks great. It looks awesome, and he's a big gamer as well.
Well, yeah, we
And
went into, so
yeah.
Michael Perez has this video game room, just so you guys know. And like we went in there and like they're all busting out like these, your kind of first person, normal sort of games. And I'm just thinking like, man, just like my like little Nintendo that's like, I have the little one,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, that's got all the old games loaded
Yeah,
onto
yeah,
it.
the
And
mini.
I like to play Super Mario Brothers 3. That's like my thing, or like Dr. Mario.
Yes.
I mean, like if you want to have like if you want to get in a big fight with
Throw
me,
down.
we can throw down on that. Let me tell you,
I
you
get
know,
you.
like I love those retro games. So I
Well,
think it's cool that they're bringing it back.
To date myself even further, I'm actually a big Atari
Atari. I knew you were going to
collector.
go there.
Yeah,
Big
I had
Atari
Atari.
collector. So
Mhm.
That's
Frogger,
that's
a
where
little
it started
Frogger.
it for me, too.
There was a documentary that was shot here in the state a few years ago called Game Over, which was about
Yep.
the dump in Alamogordo, where
Yeah.
they allegedly, the rumor was that they had buried all the thousands and thousands of ET cartridges,
Oh.
which led to the video, which helped inspire the
collapse
video
of the 83.
collapse of 1983. And I lived in Alamogordo at the time, and so I had always heard about it. And so I went down there during the filming, and I'm in the film for a couple interviews.
We were there
Nice.
too. Media Glitch was there. We
Yeah,
talked
it
about
was
that
it was
event.
crazy.
Yeah.
It was a
That's
crazy
awesome.
day. That was one of the weirdest.
Oh, it's
It
like
was-
windy and
it was like
nasty. And
it was
everything.
like a scene out of Indiana Jones
Yeah.
where the Earth is like rising up to destroy us.
That's
It
a
was
good. That's a good way to put it.
Oh,
Like
it
it
was-
just felt like that scene,
it
right?
totally
Where it's
did,
like
yeah.
everyone's just like
like
covering
covered up,
themselves.
and it was 100-mile-an-hour winds, and we're in a dump, an actual
It's-
dump.
Oh my
getting-
gosh.
So that's all
blown-
just
Yeah,
feces and stuff.
yeah.
I'm just
Gross.
kidding. Can I say that? Yeah.
But then
Yeah, you can, yeah.
at the end of the day,
Public
they
access.
pulled
Who
the stuff
knows
out
what's
of the
in there,
ground,
though,
and
right? Like-
they pulled the games out of the
Yeah.
ground and laid them out.
There
and
they
it
were.
Was like it was like this
True rumor.
miraculous like
Really?
true
Oh.
story. Yeah.
One guy had worked there, right? And he
Yeah.
he had seen it happen
Yeah.
go down. He kind of thought he knew the
They knew.
spot.
They kind of knew the area. They had.
Because
They were
it's
pretty
huge,
smart.
like
They
it's
had mapped it out, and they found the exact spot and dug them up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which has nothing to do with film, but
Well, that's
it's
well,
still
what-
awesome.
It was. They made a documentary out
Oh,
of it.
true.
It was
That's true.
documentary,
Yeah.
That's right.
Check out Game Out. Game Over.
So earlier, you guys were talking a lot about how people inspire you, and how really the way that you've kind of gotten to where you are had a lot to do with people. And I really wanted to talk a little bit about that today. I actually do this thing called Intentional Moment, which we're going to do right now, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. So maybe challenge you guys to think a little bit on that, and we'll come right back. Hey everyone, welcome back to this week's Intentional Moment. I know last time I kind of threw a curveball and challenged you guys to do something that was really hard. I asked you to consider all of the little choices that you make on a daily basis and to make some changes to them according to what's going to bring you closest to your dreams and your goals. Of course, I really didn't tell you the secret to that, or at least the obstacles or hurdles that you might face along the way. And you might have found those in the last 2 weeks while you've been hopefully pursuing those things. And that, I would say, is one of the hardest things. And it's the people in our lives. It can be a very, very powerful source, or it can be a source that really deters us. And I don't want to say gets in our way, because we don't want to talk that way about the people in our lives, especially the ones that we care about. But the reality is, the people that you surround yourself with will absolutely dictate your future, and they will dictate who you become. So research shows that the 5 people you spend the most time with, you'll become the most like. Think about that for a moment. Think about who you spend most of your time with. Are they people that are encouraging you and challenging you and pushing you towards your goals, or are they people that tear you down, or that engage in activities with you that maybe take you away from those goals? And so that's this week's intentional moment, analyzing and thinking about the people that you have brought into your life. I know that we don't like to cut out relationships, and we don't want to just unfriend people that we've had in our lives for a super long time, or that we even feel that we owe things to. But the question that you have to ask yourself is, are the people in your life helping you get to where you want to get to? And if they're not, then maybe you should think about spending less time with them and spending more time with people that maybe do lead you in that direction. Even maybe thinking about adding people to your life. So not just taking people out of your life, because that's kind of negative, right? But who can you add to your life? So one of the greatest pieces of advice that I've ever received, I got from one of the ministers in my church when I was in high school. And she always used to say that the best way to become better is to find somebody that has the character trait that you're trying to develop, and to be around them, allow them to be your mentor, to literally just stick by their side and allow them to help you grow in that area. Because the greatest expert is, of course, the person who's already doing it, and they can help you and coach you along the way. So who in your life, or who maybe do you need to add to your life that can help you develop whatever quality you're looking to develop next? As we look back at the previous intentional moments and we're thinking about how do we get there, we're looking at those most pivotal things. What quality or what behavior maybe do you need to hone a little bit to get closer to where you need to go? Find somebody who's exhibiting that behavior on a regular basis and has success with it, and go and hang out with them. Spend more time with them and less time with the people that are maybe influencing you to do things that aren't as helpful. I'm not saying cut them out entirely, but maybe we spend less time out drinking with our friends this week and more time hanging out with people who are absolutely demonstrating success and can encourage us and push us to do the same. So think about your inner circle. It's one of the hardest things that we can do, but it's one of the highest leverage points as well. I challenge you this week to go out, look at your people, and be intentional. Pursue your dreams. See you next week. All right, so this week we are talking all about the being intentional in our relationships and in the people we surround ourselves with, which can be super, super hard. And I know for my life and just like growing up, we had a lot of things happen in my youth, I guess, that where we had to really break away from people that were in our lives for a very long time. But I also know that was what was best for our family. And I think it really taught me as well that sometimes, unfortunately, you do have to be very intentional, either if that means sacrificing, or if it means the opposite, where you're intentionally meeting people and being in the presence of people that can help you grow. Who have been some of your greatest mentors, and what have they taught you?
Oh man, I agree. Coming from because I used to be a drug addict, and just the friends that I rolled with and the crew and everything. I actually, when my journey is a faith journey and giving my life to God, and I left the whole state and went all the way across the country. So I did like extreme version of what you're saying. I went to the other side of the country, and mentors have been like pastors, and even I tell you, my wife, just how she lives her life and the integrity and stuff like that. As far as like for filmmaking, just if we're on this subject, early on, Edgar Wright, which is crazy because that was the inspiration to get me to start writing and directing.
Sure.
And then he was in Mexico, and I was filming my first feature. And he's actually on the behind the scenes of my first feature.
That's
you know?
amazing.
And so when you have like someone that you look up to and their work, and all of a sudden,
Yeah.
he invited me and my wife to, when Space came out on DVD
Yes.
Oh my God.
in here, we went out to I watched all 2 seasons with him on the big screen, and then then we were invited to Scott Pilgrim and stuff like that. And we'd email, and so when you have like, holy smokes, man, like, the boss man is like, there's, hey, yeah, man, do it, that's inspiration right there to get that, And there's been a lot of directors that I've met, since then, and all of them have given me something,
Yeah.
And I try to, like I said, I just surround myself with smarter people than me, and things work out really great.
I
so.
find that that's the best place to be in is
Yeah.
when you're not the smartest person in the room.
Yeah.
And when you're surrounded by people that that their passion is at least at your level, if not greater,
Yeah.
and their expertise is beyond yours. And I think that's a beautiful recipe. I know for me, like, I sometimes talk about, you guys actually got to meet Meredith, those out there in TV land that like to follow my show, who's been a mentor of mine since and she's a year older than I am, but she was very pivotal when I was getting out of a lot of the stuff that I was in when I was a teenager. And she was a faith mentor for me.
Yeah.
And now she's still a really great friend of mine, and she's actually a podcaster as well. And so I'm always asking her, like, oh, how do we do this thing that we're doing now, that we're still doing similar things? And she's, kind of mentored me in that too. But
And it's interesting because mentors will come and go sometimes in your life. There's some people, amazing men of God who have poured into me, and I don't see them or talk to them anymore.
and they have no idea necessarily where you are right now, right?
Well, I mean,
sometimes they do.
Who knows? I
And
don't.
who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. But but that's the thing. It's like, sometimes people are there for a season to give you what you need at that time to get through those times. Whether they're good or they're bad.
Yeah, absolutely. How about you, Devin?
Early on, I think I was lucky to have some really good mentors in school. That's not always the case, but early on, I think I was always sort of I always had a creative mind, but I never really understood that writing was a thing.
Yeah.
But then in high school, I had a creative writing teacher named Fei Lee, who was really inspirational and just kind of drove home this idea of creativity and just like kind of freeing your mind and coming up with ideas just for the sake of ideas. It wasn't a job. It wasn't a craft that you worked on. It was just something you just kind of let loose out of yourself, and that was really helpful. And even through college, I had some great teachers. And then when I became a journalist, a film journalist, that was amazing because I got to meet so many big Hollywood writers and directors and producers, and so many people that I had admired and loved their work. One of the biggest for me was a Hong Kong filmmaker named John Woo, and I got to meet him and interview him and had a really good interview with him. And it was fascinating to meet somebody who talked so passionately about film and what they did, and talked differently than you would have expected. He was just a very kind and gentle and smart man, and it was just fascinating listening to this guy who's all of his movies I've seen and grew up loving, and just listen to him talk about the art that he did. That was amazing, and I've been really lucky to do that with a lot of different filmmakers over the years. And recently, I think I go into filmmaking with a certain intention of finding people who know what they're doing and can elevate what I'm doing. Filmmaking I love filmmaking because it's a very collaborative art. You can't do it all on your own. You can maybe write and direct and produce and make something on your own, but that's really hard. And I find it so much easier, and frankly, it's a little bit of cheating. I can write something and it can be good and people can like it, but then I give it to actors and directors and and lighting people and just all these people who are going to add something to
Right.
it. And it's like, if I had something good to begin with and all these other people add something to it, you get something much, much better. And so really every film set I've been on has been a process of like just meeting new people and looking around me and going, wow, that person really knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like, I got to remember that person's name because that's the person I got to work with again because that
Yep.
person is always going to make my stuff better. And that goes from the sound guy to the director, you know, the obvious stuff like the director, but then small stuff like sound and every little thing that goes into it. Actors, you meet actors, they do something amazing with your character. You're like, I'm going to write something for you next time because you're really good. That's the kind of stuff that gets me excited, is seeing how people care about what they do, and me wanting to make something better for them because I respect what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, tough question. Maybe thinking about and realize that our audience is people that you know love film as well. But the biggest goal that we have really on this show is for even the average. Just I don't want to say it like or not average, but like you know just any sort of wow. Woo! Sorry guys, sometimes I struggle, but
You're doing great.
thanks. But anybody who's pursuing any sort of dream, whether it's film related or arts related or otherwise, and maybe it's a personal growth dream. Maybe it's more about even just like learning how to figure out who they are or being confident or whatever. But what would you say about how do we, when we find that people in our lives are maybe holding us back or pulling us down, or we are easily tempted into even, you know, going off and kind of allowing their life to influence our life to a degree that maybe negatively impacts our goals. How have you guys, or how would you give advice to people about how do we move through that in a way with grace?
Just leave. There's no grace. And I say this because a lot of times you have to strengthen yourself first and get where you need to be, and then you can go back. So I've gone back to a lot of my old friends, you know, and I can have great memories and we can share and we can hang out. I don't hang out with them all the time, you know, because, you know,
Because you are who you hang with.
exactly, like you said. But the thing is like you need to become the influencer and not be the person influenced. So once you achieve your goal, you get away, focus, get your goals, write them down, go after them. Once you got them, then they're going to be looking for you, and they're going to want to know what you got, what you have, and they're going to be searching for you, and then that's when you come back and everything's good. It's like, oh, you know, those people are like, oh, it's like we you know, I haven't seen you in 5 years, but it's like we hung out yesterday, and you guys start talking again and stuff like that, and then hopefully you can set them on the right path.
Yeah.
But you can't do it. Like I know you like it seems like bogus and it seems harsh and to just cut people off, but sometimes you just got to do that way, you know. And if you want to try to do it gracefully, fine, that you can. But guess what? It probably won't work.
Yeah.
You know.
You have to break that bond first.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For me, it's always been. At some point, I realized you can't wait around for some other person to get you where you want to go. You can't sit there like. Even for me, when I was out in Hollywood, my thinking was, well, I need somebody to buy a screenplay and produce a film and make this thing happen for me. So it goes on a big scale, it goes on a small scale. You know, you can't find friends or people around you to make these things happen for you. You just have to decide, look, this is my thing. Those people are off on their journey, and I need to make this happen for me. And that's kind of the break that I made when I said, like, you know what, I just want to make this stuff happen. I don't need this big Hollywood stuff. I just need to find people who are going to make films.
Right.
And that's when I started looking for those people and kind of getting that family together.
Yeah.
And that's really for me. It's not a matter of cutting people out. If people are a problem or don't assist or whatever, that goes away really quickly for me.
Right.
You know, I'm old enough that I don't I don't need to support other people's egos or whatever.
Right.
You know, that stuff goes away quickly. For me, it's like, okay, here's my goal. I need to find these people who are going to help that go forward.
Right. Well, and I kind of, I think that both of those things are valid, and I kind of feel like there's the reality that when you begin to head in the direction of your dreams, and when you begin to get serious about who you want to be and that personal growth, and that intentional career growth or wherever it is that you're pursuing, that the people that have the ability to walk with you will, and those that can't, that they're not there yet, they'll fall away. And that can be really, like, I know for me, like, it's been really hard because there have been people in my life that I wanted to come with me, and I wanted to drag out of some of those spaces. And I wish that they were in a different place now. But I also, kind of like you said, I couldn't wait around for them to decide that it was important. And I think a lot of that had to do, too, with remembering to value myself, which was a really big thing. It was hard for me, but to really value myself and to not settle for less than what I deserved and than what I wanted. And so I think that really developing that tenacity and then realizing that the right people are going to find you. If you're doing, the work, and if you're going and pursuing your dreams, you're going to match up with people who have that same kind of energy.
Oh, for sure.
And so it might feel like a very, very lonely journey right now, and along the way, but when you arrive, I think you're going to find you're in good company. So.
Yeah.
I think people are around you for different reasons too.
Absolutely.
I don't think everybody is there to contribute to your one goal. I think they add different things to your life. Certainly as a writer, I like surrounding myself with a lot of different people because probably
you're gonna use them
I'm
at
gonna
your
steal
stories.
something from them,
Better watch out, guys.
I might need to keep the crazy friend around who gets
Me
in
too.
trouble all the time just because, man, those are some good stories. But that's not the person who's going to contribute to my big goals. Those are different people. So you keep people around for different reasons, and I think the smart thing is to just realize what they're in your life for.
Yeah.
What you rely on them for.
Yeah. Well, I think that's absolutely valid. This has been a great conversation. I know for me, like, getting to do this show has been so exciting for me because I get the excuse to hang out with people like you guys, pick your brains a little bit, and just kind of see what I can glean. So thank you so much for sharing so much
Thanks
and
for having me.
pouring into me
thanks
for the last hour. I hope you guys out there in TV land have gained something, and so maybe think through what you can glean from today. And that's about all the time we have for today. So thanks so much
It's been
for
fun.
coming out.
Yes.
And it's time for a new agenda.
New agenda. I knew it was